play it every once in a while. I was going for the 100%, but my hard drive crashed. What's going on YouTube? Today we're checking out Assassin's Creed Valhalla before you buy. When these are 10 things to look out for before you buy. But guess what? Joke's on you. I already bought it. Alright, so let's hop into this. No reason to dilly-dally. We got 13 minutes and 34 seconds starting now.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show will give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games
Looks
releasing.
good so
and today
far.
It's definitely some first impressions time because we're talking about
surprisingly a lot
Assassin's
better
Creed
than Odyssey.
Valhalla. We are once again here with another massive open-world RPG-style Assassin's Creed game in a similar style of Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, some context here before we jump in. I do love this series. I have
feel like you
no
can't go
shame
back
about it. I
from
play
that.
every single one. I give all of them a chance, and I appreciate them all, even with their different faults. I think there's always something interesting going on in each game from the beginning. I'm way more partial to the older games, I will say, like pre-Origins, but if we're talking about this newer type trilogy thing, I found Origins to have a cool story, setting, and character, and Odyssey was like way too massive, but it was fun and interesting. Valhalla continues this sprawling formula and takes steps in an interesting new direction here and there, while still very much falling prey to some of the same formula issues as Odyssey and Origins, which is a matter of taste. But overall, it's in a rougher package. So without beating around the bush much, like I'm not crazy about this one, but it has moments of greatness. For every good thing I have to say, I also just have something that I really don't like. So as usual, I'm gonna break down a lot for you: the flow, the systems, some impressions, and maybe help you make a more informed decision. That's all. Of course, so you know, the footage here has no spoilers that we captured. It's all sort of within the first few hours, and it was all captured running on an Xbox Series X. Now, I think of the last few Assassin's Creed games, everyone is going to have that one that they really, really love. And if you're on the other side of that,
Brotherhood,
you know, maybe
Black
you
Flag,
were fans of the
Odyssey
previous
was pretty
games, I
decent.
don't think this is going to change your mind. You're still traveling massive landscapes by horseback, you're still slaying dudes in similar combat, and doing weird side quests. The twist that Valhalla brings does shake things up, but how much it makes a difference for you will kind of rely on your personal taste and how you feel about these. First and foremost, you are a Viking. That's super cool if you're into Viking stuff. I don't really know much about them. I'm not going to pretend to you guys. I'm not going to lie. But they seem to do a good job of capturing
do they have
the vibe.
mythology
You know,
of
living
it?
in longhouses, drinking mead, the exploration, the brutality, the feeling that these are just hardy people who lived in harsh conditions. And it's extra apparent as you start out in cold Norway. The opening area is just straight up awesome as you set out as Eivor, a warrior and adventurer belonging to this Raven clan. Now you choose a male or a female Eivor and can slightly tweak their appearance with hair colors, different beards, and tattoos. And just like Odyssey, to me it seems like there's a standout choice in the voice acting department on which character you choose. You remember last time I said in Odyssey, Cassandra was the standout choice in the voice acting department. This time around, it's the male Eivor. The voice actor is excellent, does a great job, and I don't get sick of listening to him for hours and hours and hours of adventuring. So anyway, speaking of adventuring, after a few hours, you venture to England to conquer new lands and build a new life, and that's where the main crux of the adventure is. The game is structured a bit differently. There's a main arc sort of about Eivor, his personal journey with visions he's having, his relationship with his bonded brother, which I gotta say is a very cool dynamic and is pretty interesting. And there's some cool Assassin's Creed
from Odyssey are still
story
in this.
stuff that they attempt that I think long-standing fans
Almost feels
will
like they just
appreciate.
changed the setting
like
and
this
changed
before,
the
and I was happy
character.
to see it. So all of this stuff is the overall thing, but the game is kind of broken up with micro stories about your conquest of England. You click on the map in your longhouse and you pledge to do a thing in a region, and then that's the overarching narrative for the time being. You go to a place, you usually meet a king or some dudes with beards and do a conquer. Usually it takes time as things diverge,
I feel like
but then
Odyssey's
it wraps up
gonna burn
nicely
me
and
out
you
if
put a
this
pin
is
on the
like
map.
the
That's your
gameplay
new
of
ally,
Valhalla.
and you move on and you don't see them for a while.
Very similar.
Now what I've noticed so far after doing quite a few of these regions and main missions is that they are just dull for me personally. I didn't find them very interesting. It's just dudes growling about killing this person or taking this castle, and it just got old fast. There were only a pinch of characters I enjoyed, despite being introduced consistently to a bunch. The main interesting stuff only comes so often, and it just seems a bit disappointing overall. But character building is great though, like in terms of your RPG stats. Abilities
at the same
work
time,
similar to
Odyssey wasn't
Odyssey
that
and how you
interesting,
map
but
them, and I like that
hopefully
you have
they
to
captured the
explore
mythology,
world to actually find
any
these
of it.
abilities. It encourages scouring through environments and gives you like a meaningful reward in new ways to kill dudes. Weapons and armor are not a dime a dozen here at all either. Instead of the game dumping loot onto you constantly like previous games, here, when you get something new, it's usually a meaningful weapon or at least something worth upgrading into something cool, spending your points on. Because once again, you can dump resources into weapons and armor to strengthen it and get more out of it, and then further customize it with rune slots.
Tweaks
and
of
because you're
it
not
looks
switching
good.
out weapons
Couple
like every
tweaks,
10
I'm
minutes,
like, yeah,
it's
that's
satisfying,
really nice.
at least to me personally. Also, when you do upgrade stuff, a lot of times there's like a cosmetic change to it, and I love that feedback. I'm a sucker for stuff like that, like your armor getting cooler or your sword getting
neat.
shinier, you know? You also, of course, level up and earn skill points, which you can dump into a highly convoluted, for no reason, skill tree. Even though it's laid out weird, it usually gives you passive benefits, and get far enough into a branch and you can get a sort of ability or something practical. It all works and does exactly what it needs to. The other main loop is your settlement. Now, this is the first time in the newer Assassin's Creed games where you have a really good sense of place here. Nestled along a little river, you set up home and bring back resources to build new buildings and build up an actual environment. Sometimes it's a
you
shop,
sold me on that.
sometimes it's a way to cash in on something you collect out in the world.
You sold
through
me on
various
that.
resources and hidden collectibles you can get. And sometimes it's meaningful stuff like building barracks to then be able to customize your crew and companions a little bit, or a shipbuilder hut to customize your longboat, or sometimes what you build just gives you missions or a complete new thing to do. Build one place and then it gives you access to a list of tiered enemies that you have to investigate and work through, similar to the previous games. So stuff like that. Building up your little homestead gives you access to these things. The settlement stuff is just cool. Could it be a little more in depth? Yeah, sure, but you can also argue it's not overly complicated, it's just right, it's just a tiny bit customizable, and just rewarding enough to occasionally go back to and get some reward out of it. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. I'm just like a sucker for this stuff. Now, many of the resources you need to build up your homestead is gathered through raiding.
Ooh, look at that
Hop on your
flag.
longboat with your crew, sail around, find a small
Or
town or
sail,
monastery to pull up
whatever
to,
you wanna
and
call
blow your
it.
horn, and everybody jumps out and a raid commences. You throw torches to burn down buildings, you kill enemies, you break down doors with companions, and you take loot and you open up chests. It kind of gives me the vibe, actually, of terrorizing the open seas in AC Black Flag,
dated.
which I loved, but it's simpler here, and it's pretty messy and not always as satisfying as I'd hoped. I can't quite put my finger on why. Maybe it's they feel a little disjointed or not very guided, or it's the dumb AI. Still, it's fun to just leave a town burning in your wake. Even if it is a bit off, the resources gained are important. Same goes for the combat though. Like, they're going for the brutality of Vikings, and in terms of some of the animations and stuff, they nail some of it. You know, pulling an axe out of a dude's head after the final blow looks cool. The finishing animations are over the top when they actually work, when the camera doesn't clip through the environment. It's all really awesome, but there's something about it that feels slightly off and not as satisfying as the previous games. You just feel a bit disconnected. Enemies are dumb as hell, and the camera is often like way too far from the action for my taste. They try to make you feel like a badass, and many enemies go down very easily. You smash through them because you are a powerful brute. I think it's just very.
It's not as clunky as
There's
Odyssey.
not much
Odyssey
to
looked
it. You know,
terrible,
unlike previous games, I don't really like many of the abilities here. That being said, the weapons themselves are very cool. You can dual wield, and while I don't think the implementation and control scheme is perfect, I am glad there's enough versatility to dual wield stuff like shields. But the difference between a small axe, a long axe, a sword, a flail, a hammer adds up. It's fun to experiment and try all the weapons with different speeds and purposes. I really like the deliberate, slow nature of swinging the flail around and smashing through a dude's shield. It's sometimes satisfying, and then other times it's just dull and easy. Now, I already complimented exploration a bit, and I want to say the game is filled with stuff and is really long and maybe even packed with filler and bloat. But it's more focused at the same time. The map isn't overly cluttered, and the game emphasizes you just looking around and going towards what interests you at that moment in your near vicinity, and I appreciate that. That's a meaningful flow change, and I want more stuff like that. Now, you'll also notice that I barely mentioned stealth because it's kind of the same as usual here if you played Origins or Odyssey. You still have the option of going in stealthy and picking off dudes, and it works even if it's fairly simple. They added back in some social stealth, though. In some areas, you can walk freely, but need to wear your hood up. And if you get too close to guards, they'll notice you. You can sit on benches or hide in a group to blend in. Yeah, what does it sound like? Old Assassin's Creed.
Really cool.
No, it's not as good as you think.
Games.
It's nowhere near as fleshed out or meaningfully integrated as the older Assassin's Creed games. It almost felt a bit pandery to me as an old fan, but then again, it still had a few decent moments. Sometimes it's fun to sneak in and thin the herd and then call your raid party, and then when you're already inside, even if sometimes it feels the game doesn't like that and the AI freaks out. Speaking of freaking out, this game, for me, was busted as hell in some spots. I've had the camera ruin like 50% of finishing moves. I've had enemies clip through stuff. I've had companions show up randomly behind locked doors. I've had a couple of crashes, some audio and lip syncing issues, and just a lot of embarrassing AI and just weird stuff like that. I will say on the Series X, the game is rock solid 60 FPS, but technically, other than that, it's a bit rough. The quality is not there yet, and like a lot of games recently, maybe it's because of COVID development, I'm going to use the same phrase, it could have used a bit more time in the oven. I very much have a high tolerance for this stuff. I power through it, but I did want to still point it out because I know that for some people it really can ruin the experience. Some people are more sensitive to that stuff. For me though, the biggest turnoff was just the dumb AI, especially during raids and castle sieges. It's like they don't even know what to do when there are lots of characters on screen, and it makes the game a little less fun. And these glitches and jankiness are a shame because, once again, they've built a beautiful world here. Norway and England are like shockingly beautiful, dude. I was blown away, especially experiencing sunset, like the sunlight streaming through the trees and leaves blowing and rivers flowing all at 60 FPS. Still maybe worth experiencing, especially because even more than Odyssey or Origins, you stumble across really weird little side quests and world events and even environmental puzzles. And the minigames are decent too. The weird factor is still there, and that's good, because like I said, I found the main quests dull. And ultimately, it's still just a very long, bloated experience where whether or not that payoff is satisfying is up to your personal preference. For me, not so much, but maybe for someone in love with the new Assassin's Creed games, maybe you put 400 hours in Odyssey and you want more, go for it. Or maybe you haven't played in a long time and maybe you just love Vikings. You might like it for this. It's a decent enough Viking simulator, I guess. I'm burnt out on the newer Assassin's Creed games. I'm glad this one tries a few things to tweak it. I had some memorable moments and sequences, some surprises through exploration. Even though I'm ultimately lukewarm, I think many people are going to like it. I know I'm all over the place with this one. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I tried to just lay out all of the feelings and all of the explanations as best I could. This is a before you buy. That's enough me talking in circles. I give you pros, cons, personal opinion. Now I want to hear yours down in the comments. What are you thinking if you just jumped into this game? It released yesterday, if you're watching this video right when it goes live. What are you thinking? Do you like the weapons? What's your favorite weapon, shield, or dual wield combo? What's your favorite location or area? What platform are you playing on? How is it running on PC? Because I didn't get to see it on PC. Let's talk anything Assassin's Creed Valhalla down in the comments. I know some Viking fans are really going to love this stuff, so I'd love to hear from you guys as well. But if you enjoyed this video, maybe we helped you out. Clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, maybe consider...
Well, I don't know why I said 10 things before you buy. It's just regular before you buy. Okay, a couple thoughts of my own. Definitely looks like an upgrade, in my opinion, to Odyssey in a lot of ways. I like that they are bringing back a few things from the older games, like the hiding and all that. I mean, it was just really nice how the old games played, but the old games are missing a lot of the other stealth things that the newer games have, and it just sucks that they're not meshing them very well, but it seems like Valhalla's trying, so I'll give them that. I mean, you know, mythology-wise, I was pretty bummed that Odyssey didn't have a Kraken. Like, dude, perfect opportunity with that Greek shit to just throw a Kraken in the ocean, but hopefully they don't miss a beat with the Viking or Norse mythology or whatever. I mean, God of War, man, you're going against them as far as bringing that mythology to, you know, the masses and shit, dude. I'm surprised that they also didn't latch on to the whole, like, slower combat feeling that everybody else is hopping on, which I kind of appreciate because, you know, I do love those games, but it is nice to have a little change of pace. I just thought Odyssey was super, like, clunky PS3 just like, all right, we said God of War, not old God of War, you know, like it's just, but it's all right. I think that they definitely look a little better as far as animations and the attacks in this one. Hey, I'm a little bummed that he said that the world is empty, but I mean, it's a Ubisoft game. You know, you don't buy this game expecting to 100% it. I mean, some people are, but like for me, it's just a game that I pop in every once in a while. Like Black Flag was my PS3 game. Actually, no, it was my PS4 game. Damn, it's been a long time. You know, I would just pop that in, play it every once in a while. I was going for the 100%, but my hard drive crashed. Odyssey, you know, I just picked it up because it was on sale. I heard that if you are going to get Valhalla, don't play Odyssey because you're going to have that burnout, and definitely was feeling it with Odyssey. It was just so damn big, and I have an incredible amount of quests that I can't even finish because I don't have the drive to go hunting for like 13 caves around Greece or whatever. But after watching that video, seeing a few things that I did enjoy was the hiding, the customization. I think building the whole city thing's really cool. I'm a big customization guy, and even if it's pretty like mellow as far as what you're customizing, if it's just upgrading stuff, I don't mind that. I can do it. I'll enjoy it. Kind of like how Brotherhood had it, and I think Brotherhood was the best Assassin's Creed in my opinion. Oh, speaking of which, you can even send out your own people. I don't know if I got far enough in Odyssey to send my own people out, but it's cool that you could do that in this game. You know, like I said, a couple nods to the older games, and that's really neat. But I think my favorite thing that he mentioned, and I am excited for, is when you're upgrading your armor or your weapons and just seeing those tad bit differences that are the upgrades. Like, that sounds so damn cool. So, with all that being said, I'm actually excited. I can't wait to play it. Another Assassin's Creed launch game for my console, just like Black Flag and other Assassin's Creeds before that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It'd be awesome if you can leave some comments below of what you think about this footage and a few things that you also are excited for or not excited for. What was your favorite Assassin's Creed game? And whatever else that guy mentioned in his video. Do it for me. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate the views. I appreciate the support. See y'all in the next video.